Oh, hey guys, welcome to Unreal Engine. All right, so this video series is the video series I wish existed when I was first learning Unreal, but did not. There's a lot of great content out there for learning Unreal in general or learning very, very specific parts of Unreal. Not a lot just to take you from the very, very beginning where you've never done anything before in the entire engine to learning just what you need to know as a visual effects artist. So if you're not a visual effects artist or not interested in learning about visual effects, probably not the video series for you, but that's my focus. I'm here to help you guys on the journey that I've been on, and hopefully it'll be easier for you than it was for me. Okay, so you see here I've got a project already open. Now these effects are all available in my class. You can get the link in the description for that. These were created in large part by a little bit by myself, but also by Luke Mason. He helped me compose a lot of these, and it was a nice collaborative effort. Also, shout out to David Shovlin and Jason Chisholm for making some of the 3D effects you're going to see. Okay, so anyway, this project's open. That's great, but we're absolute beginner. We're going to start from the very top. Now, when you first get the Unreal Engine, actually, before you get the Unreal Engine, you have to get the Epic Games Launcher. And the Epic Games Launcher includes not just Unreal Engine, as you can see here, but also other things. Like if you go to home, there's like the games and stuff like that. And so this is what the version looks like as of today. Over the years, it might change. It might have to update the video, but you want to find the Unreal Engine developer portion of the Epic Games Launcher. Come over here, you can look at the engine versions. Now, this is going to be a pretty big install on your computer, so I actually could probably save a lot of hard drive space by removing older versions. 4.22 is the one I'm using. It's already not the most current, not super critical that I get the very most current, just they all work for making cool stuff. Okay. Anyway, I've got my file here. This was the one that was just opened, Intro VFX 12, and that's this project here. Now, when you want to, oops, a little early for that. If you want to just launch a project from scratch, you can just click launch on the engine, not on the project. And what that will bring up is this guy. And in this window, it'll have all of your previous projects that you've got, or you can go to new project. And what I did for the class was I just started with a third-person template and had some help swapping out some environment assets and a few other things to just customize it slightly. But what's nice about these is that you get, you know, this mannequin guy that runs around and he can jump and everything else in game. So you can kind of get a feel for what your effects are going to feel like in a real life game, which is pretty cool. You just create a folder name here, what you want it to be called, and then go on like that. Another thing you can do once you've created this, or if you've imported someone else's U project, you can go up to where it's located. And you can simply double click on the U project that's inside of the folder. So the content is going to live in here. You'll notice that all these folder names match up with all of these folder names in here in the content folder of my project. So that's pretty cool. I would be leery of just dragging and dropping content directly in your browser into these though. Like if I go into here, I'm like, oh yeah, shared textures. You'll notice that these are not actually texture files. These are U asset files. So the proper thing to do is go to wherever you have your new texture that you've created, your source asset, and then come on in here, you go to shared textures, and then you can simply drag and drop it in, which is what I've done with all of these. And they work as U assets now. Now, the big difference between a U asset and just a simple texture sitting in the folder is U assets have they have links. They are used places. So like the U asset knows, oh, this material over here references me, or that mesh, or that particle system, or whatever. So it's really valuable to drag and drop them in that way. All right. So more on browsing around in Unreal. It's easy to get lost in here. There's lots of crazy cool stuff. If you just go to content, that's like the head directory where everything is at. The VFX Apprentice is unique to my class. So this is all of our content in here. We've got the simple emitters, which is all these. We've got the 4 major emitters. I'll get to those in a minute. And then we've got the blueprints that kind of make them fire in the environment when you press certain keys. We've got the materials, which are shared by more than one emitter. Other shared assets aside from the parent materials. And then we have a bonus. Guys, got a bonus campfire. All right. So if you want a little easier, familiar view, I like to do this little twirl out menu over here. And then you can see all your same folders over here with like nice drop downs. And you can kind of quickly just click through and say, I want to go here, here, and here. All right. So there you go. That's like the basics of like getting started, loading in. Also importantly, like let's say I want to like, I don't know, create a particle system. It was so funny when I first opened Unreal. I'm like, so how do I actually create something like from scratch? Like all this is created for you. So it's nice if you like get assets, you can just like check them out. But I know sometimes you want to just dive in and see how you create something, right? Well, there's a few ways. So if I go, I'll just go into a folder that has particle systems in it, right? I can right click here and I can say particle system. That'll create a new particle system. I can say add new particle system. Here. Those are two ways to create a particle system from scratch. Now, what are particle systems exactly? I'm so glad you asked. Let's find something out here. If I search up here for fire, it won't work the way that I want it to, because this is how you search for like folders. So don't search over there like me. I made that mistake constantly. You want to search over here. Like fire. Also, you want to be in the right folder. There's not going to be any fire in the Wispy Cloud folder. So if you click over here to content, then I can see all the fire in all of my project, which is really handy, right? There's a fire explosion, there's fire textures. Something interesting here, all of these file types have a different color to them, and you can mouse over to see what they are. So see right there, it says fire particle glow matte material in the parentheses. That means that it's a material. We named it matte, so it's easier to see that it's a material just by glancing at it. BP is blueprint. You've got a texture over here. So textures and materials are different. Don't worry, I'm going to go into that later. They're similar, but not the same. We want to do Torchfire VFX. That looks like a good one right there. This P-Fire, by the way, is pretty fun. It comes with the Unreal Starter content. I'm not sure if that was Bill Cladis that made it or someone else. I know that he did a series of tutorials a while ago. They're pretty cool if you want to check that out. Fun stuff there. But that comes with it for everybody, so you can maybe check that one out at home. But I'm going to go into this Torchfire. All right. Okay, so this opened up a new window. I'm going to hop over to that. Bam. Okay, there we are. This is Unreal Cascade, guys. This is the meat and potatoes, the bread and butter of all your VFX adventures. You're going to spend, hopefully, the bulk of your time in here. And yeah, it's Unreal Cascade. There, tutorial over. Huh? Get it? No. Okay, we're going to keep going. First step I want to do is I want to get this fellow into here. Before I can like test it accurately. That you saw there was a preview window there. I like to see it in the world because I know like the scale compared to everything else and all these other things. So we're gonna get it up here in the world. One fun thing you can do is I can right click on it and say show in folder view. And what that will do is it will browse to it. So before it was like in a search of like everything, but now I know where it's located. It's in the extra fire folder, particle systems. So that's handy. Also, fun fact, that same functionality is here. And this magnifying glass works everywhere you are in Unreal. So like anytime you see like a magnifying glass symbol, that will like take you to that location in the folder, the location of the thing in the folder. Okay, so anyway, back to here. Click it, drag it, put it right here. Now this brings me to the viewport. Viewport's a lot of fun. It's been up the whole time. How do we move around in the viewport? All right, well, there's a few ways you can do that. You can right click and drag. You can, I think I can hold Alt and left click and drag, and it'll like kind of rotate. So like this is like, right, Alt right is like zoom, right click is like tilt, like you can just play around with combinations of like Alt and Shift and click and all that. My favorite though is if you just hold right click and then you do WASD, like WASD, you can move around like it's in a video game, which is pretty fun. You can like do little fly-throughs of your effects. I don't know, if you're really good at it, you can maybe do a screen capture, like a flyby of something you're doing, whatever you want to do. Now this is annoying because it's showing the outline of all the cards. There's a few things I can do to get rid of that. Unreal has really cool documentation. Let's see here. Show you this. For full like breakdown of everything in the viewport, they have that on this website. There's also like a full breakdown of everything in Unreal Engine on this website, and you can just check it out. Link in the description below. But for now, we're just focused on our particle system. Okay, so it's looking good in here. By the way, fun fact, if you go to view up here, oftentimes, it's under time. Real time is unchecked, which basically just means it doesn't update unless you click or pan around and then it freezes. This is super common, so just make sure that you have time set to real time. Also over here, same deal. You want it to be in the drop down. Here is where it's at. Also real time here if it's not playing for you. Okay, that's cool. So I want to get rid of like all these like UI things so I can just see it in the world with that dark smoke. How do I do it? I'm gonna tell you. Hit G on your keyboard. I like to think G stands for Gizmos because it's got those like little, those little dealio things that look like gizmos. It's actually game mode. I don't know. I'm gonna call it Gizmos. Sorry guys. Sorry, Unreal documentation for getting it wrong. I'm calling it Gizmos. So Gizmos is handy. Also, T is another really common one to help you out. If I hit T and sometimes it's turned off by default, it's select translucency. So basically like, see I'm clicking on that smoke, but it won't select the smoke. It's selecting the thing behind it because it clicks through the translucency. Now this would actually be nice if like there was tons of smoke in the foreground and I wanted to select that gizmo back there, then the smoke wouldn't get in the way of it. But if I do T and I click that, then it selects that transparent thing in front of it. Does that make sense? So T is a really handy one as well. All right, so you might also notice that there's a really handy dandy thumbnail down here, right? Okay, this is just something I like to do when I'm creating my effects so that I know what's what. By default, it's just blank and black and you won't know what your effects are. If you look over here, there's a thumbnail button. So all I gotta do is like, same thing as the other viewport, I'm using the WASD and the right click to kind of navigate around. I'm like, yeah, I want that. Also, make your window square, because if you make it wide, funny things happen, and it like squishes it to a square in the thumbnail. So, yeah, don't do that. Do not do the thing I just did. And you hit thumbnail, bam, then it'll take a still frame of this thing over here. Okay. So, back in here, I've hit G. Play is worth saying too. If I really want to see what it's like in game, like running around with it. And because I have the third person assets, I can come over here and just like, yeah, okay, it's like looking pretty good next to him. I can jump around it. See how I like that little fire. Okay. Also, when I'm in play, I can fire off my blueprints. And in the class, we have the fire explosion, the nethery explosion, we've got the lightning explosion, and we've got the poisonous gooey explosion. So those are pretty fun too. Those fire off with 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the class. If I hit escape, I can see them, but not really because I hit G to turn on the gizmos. So here they are. There's 4 of them right there. You can see these are blueprints. Now blueprints are a little weirder and different. You might have noticed when I had these selected over here, it's got like particle properties right here, right on the side that show up. And when you click on a blueprint, it has a little more robust of everything, because blueprint is basically a script that is a container for whatever you want to put in it. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Don't worry, we're not going to go into anything about scripting. That's all done for you in the file, so no sweat. Okay, so we've got the key that fires off. You can just change whatever key on the keyboard you want. Just go to keyboard and then find the number or the letter you want. You've got the time multiplier, which is like how much it's going to dilate, what percentage it's going to dilate in if you do the time multiplication. So you can like do it slow-mo, you can speed it up if you want, I don't care. That's kind of fun. And then you can add more elements. And oh, remember the magnifying glass? There we go. So if you hit the magnifying glass, it'll take you to it in the browser over here. If you hit the arrow, by the way, so let's say I select a different one, the arrow will like put in whatever was selected. It's kind of cool. Or you can drag and it'll turn green if it allows it. Like if I'll show you. I'll just show you. If I come over here to a texture and I'm like, I want this texture in there, it's red because it doesn't take a texture, it takes a particle system. So it's kind of good to know. Make sure you're doing the right file type, has the right color underneath it, etc., so that it matches. And these all play with a delay. So like there's a wind up, another wind up, and then another one. I gotta like twirl this one down so that we have the impact here on the strike. So there they are. All right. So yeah, there's like just all kinds of stuff to show you guys. So exciting. You know, we got the fire source assets here. Textures. I mean, I should probably show you a texture or two, right? How those work. If I double click on this fellow, bring her up on this screen. So here we've got the fiery cloud texture that happens in the big plume that explodes. And you'll notice that I can come up here to the view button and I can hide different things like, well, this one doesn't have an alpha channel. Terrible example. Let's see. Let's find one with an alpha channel. Nope. There's one with an alpha channel. In fact, this one's just all alpha. Like, in fact, if I hide the alpha, it's just solid white. And that happens sometimes, like your texture preview will just be white. Sometimes you need to open it up to see what it actually is. Gotta hide the blue, red, and green. Whoops, don't save it like I did. And then only show the alpha, and then you'll get an idea for how that's actually gonna show up and turn out. That kind of thing. We're gonna show you how to paint textures like this in the class, by the way. Shameless plug for the class. Okay, so back over to here. I told you guys I would show you a little bit more about the particle system itself. Most of that I'm going to actually go over in another video. I don't want to cram too much into just one, so stay tuned for that video. I want to show you really quick, though, the other types of files. All right, so if I come over here real quick, we've got in the fire explosion, we've got all these different meshes that are happening, right? Like, here's the mushroom cloud plume mesh that it's based off of. I'll bring it over here. All right. Oh, was I in the way of that? No, I wasn't in the way of that. You saw it. Sorry. My head kind of like switches back and forth. Sorry about that. Okay. There's our mesh. Can you see it? No, of course you can't because the lighting is terrible. Also, like, really, where is it? All right. If I come up here, I can say lit, unlit. That usually helps. Bad example. Wait, do I zoom out? Yeah, okay, it was just really big. So there it is. All right, so there's our mesh. And let's see here. If I go to UV, now I'm going to go over UVs in the class. There's also a few great tutorials out there if you want to just quickly get brushed up on UVs. You can come up here and see what the UVs look like. So you know like which UV channel it is that you're trying to use. Sometimes in the shader that I'm doing, it doesn't use 2 UV channels. You could totally add that to the shader, but no need. We can pull off all the effects that you saw with just one simple Uber shader, minus the goo. The goo has a custom shader. I don't want to spoil it too much though. Some pretty cool stuff going on there. All right, so there's mesh. Next up, we have vector fields. Come back over here. All right. Does the fire have some vector fields? No, fire does not. But I happen to know the wispy nether cloud has vector fields. Vector fields are, I don't think these show up in Unreal as a thing. No, they show up like this. So there's other software outside of Unreal that can create vector fields. We're not going to go over that, but there's some great places. I know Andreas Glad posted a bunch of free vector fields that you can play around with. Essentially what a vector field is if you imagine a cube of space, of air, and it's got little wind currents inside of it that kind of send little gusts at certain angles and certain force, like certain strength. And that's a vector, right? Is an angle and a strength. And there's just hundreds of these little tiny vectors, maybe thousands, and they push particles around in a formation. So it might be just a swirl, or it might be like a wavy wiggly one, or a vortex sucking in, or all kinds of different things. Vector fields are super powerful. They're super great. They're also fairly technical to create typically. So I'm not going to go into that in this class. In future classes, for sure. But we've got some made for you, which is kind of fun that you can play around with them and just see how they feel and make your particles swoosh around and that kind of thing. All right, so we covered textures, we covered meshes, we covered particle systems. We're going to have a whole video dedicated just to materials. All kinds of different assets that you're going to need to know in order to make particle systems. And this software, I tell you guys, Unreal is so much fun. It's so powerful and you can do such beautiful things in it. I can't wait for you to dive in and continue your learning journey on this amazing software. I forgot one more thing. Sorry, there was a lot to cover. I missed exporting files. I talked about importing files just real quick. Here's how you export files. Okay, so if I right click on a texture that I want to take back out into something like Photoshop and make more edits and then bring it back in, I can simply right click and say Asset Actions, Export. And then once I've made my changes in Photoshop, etc., I can click re-import, it'll bring it back in, or I can simply just drag it and drop it into here like I showed you before, and that works really nice. Okay, now if it's not a texture or something that something else can read and you want to move it from one project to another, that's when you want to use migrate. So let's say I want to do a particle system. So I come over here into my fire like that. I can right click on it. I can say Asset Actions right here. And then I can say migrate. And migrate is fun because, okay, yeah, so sure, save selected. And then it brings up this thing of all the stuff that has to migrate, because remember, assets have references. So a particle system uses textures, materials, meshes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to move everything that it depends on to exist over into whatever project you want to move it. Make sure you're putting it in a content folder. This is going to be especially useful as you're taking content from the class, trying it out in some of your own projects, etc. Caveat here, all the assets in the class are not for commercial use. They're educational purposes only, but you're more than welcome to just kind of like shift them around, play with them, whatever. Just, I ask, please, because they are paid assets, don't just give them away. That would be really nice of you if you did that for me. Really appreciate it. Okay, so that's exporting. Now you know how to export and import. You got all the information. All right, now I'm out until the next video.